What is the most outrageous waste of money you have witnessed with your own eyes? Knew a guy that bought a device from a magic website that made it look like you shot fireballs out of your hand. Thing cost $200 and everyone around him said it was stupid. This may be autobiographical. Not the biggest waste, but weirdest one. Around 2001, my wife worked for a national company, and her team was split between East and West Coast. No working from home or laptops. Desktops were standard for them. If someone needed to work from home, they had a single laptop they could use for the whole team. So, if that laptop was an NC, and someone in CA needed to work from home, they had to box it up, ship it, with full insurance, rush shipping, and a few days notice, to the other coast. High school head of math department buys about 10 pallets of chalk, and retires the next year. The new head of the math department decides to switch out all the chalkboards for dry erase boards. They aren't allowed to throw out the chalk, and aren't allowed to share with other departments who still use chalkboards. They had a room full of chalk for at least 7 or 8 years that no one was allowed to use. The 3 separate occasions where my dad bought a boat, neglected to use it for years, sold it, and bought a different boat like the next year. Definitely not the biggest sum of money, but spent for a really stupid reason. I bought a $300 bottle of scotch when I meant to buy the $60 version from the same distillery. The boxes look nearly identical. When the cashier told me the price, I realized my mistake, but she and everyone behind me in line seemed really impressed that I was buying something so expensive. So now I own an unopened very expensive bottle of single malt because of my social anxiety. My company recently switched to a new operating system, and rather than have a few people come train our office, they planned to send everyone, around 200 people, from the East Coast to the West Coast for a week for training. They did about half before realizing that wasn't cost effective, and since they're such a great company, their solution after that was to stop training everyone and just give them books to read. A girl I went to high school with applied to Harvard. She spelled it Harvard multiple times in her essay and paid the $75 application fee. I work for Amazon's logistical team. They're currently spending thousands of dollars sending people to CDL school so we can move freight between sites. However, they're not giving out bonuses, raises, or any kind of incentive. So everyone's just leaving immediately after to better paying jobs. It's hilariously stupid. I have a friend who will book vacations to countries other co-worker book trips to just so he can say he's been there first. I had a client who borrowed money at 6% interest only, fixed for 5 years, to invest in 5-year term deposit offering 2.3% because he was told he should have investments in term deposits when nearing retirement. Friend bought a new fully stocked car he couldn't afford on his salary. He said it's okay because he is getting another job that pays better wages. Only thing is, he hasn't taken the exam to get his license for the job yet. Previous job, a satellite location ran mostly on their own. Technically was their own company of 7 people. President of said company met someone online, got catfished hard and sent them $20K from the business. Then they did IT again 2 years later. In Las Vegas in 2000 at the Bellagio, I watched a guy walk up to a high roller blackjack table. He was being followed by a security guard and some guy in a suit carrying what we guesstimated at about $300K in chips. He sat and played blackjack by himself. We watched for about 45 minutes and he had already lost over $150K. Never once showed any emotion. No clue who the guy was. He was dressed like a stereotypical white grandpa in jean shorts, a polo shirt, and white New Balance tennis shoes. I'm a VIP tour guide at Walt Disney World. Each guide costs $600 hour and charging starts when you ask us to meet you, whether you're there or not. A family booked 2 of us multiple days in a row and wouldn't show up until typically 2-3 hours into being charged $7K plus overall paid for tour time they didn't use. Didn't care at all. Edit. Walt Disney World. Me. Buying $5K worth of crypto at the peak of the December 2017 rush. 2 of my favorites. My rich uncles bought a luxury sport boat. Something went wrong with the rudder that you use for water skiing. They were so disgusted that after paying thousands for the repair, they got a whole new one, selling the old one for nothing. I also worked at a high-end footwear factory, making pairs of leather shoes that retail at $500 a pair. The owner was a self-styled anarcho-capitalist and had some entertaining ideas about how to run a business. He had some notion that his staff would work harder if we were afraid of bankruptcy, so he stopped buying leather. I don't know how these things were connected. Naturally, we could not make more shoes. He told customers that the wait would be longer than ever for their shoes. Sales stopped. Orders stopped. I swept the floor 10 times a day. He refused to buy leather for 3 months, while keeping all of us working, paying our wages with his own credit because he was mad at someone who told him that his strategy was idiotic. The company was bought out by another old boys club entrepreneur head after the owner ran out of money. Had a friend who was in his late 20s and lived with his parents, 100% dependent. Dude worked a part-time job and said he was saving money for something big. We all assumed he meant like moving out or a trip out of the country or something. No. This MF bought a $750 pair of sneakers and then put them in a display case. I haven't spoken to him in about a year. Someone buying a UACute 20 extended 3-year warranty on a UACute 6 kettle. My school is one of the few schools to be part of the Apple Distinguished Schools. Everyone in middle school and high school gets their own MacBook Air. Everyone from kindergarten to middle school gets iPads. Meanwhile, our art department is one guy who is paying for everything himself because he loves art and does it for the students. My class donated the money we got from fundraisers that we would have used to go have a party after our graduation ceremony to our school departments that were in need. Edit. This is by far my most upvoted post comment on Reddit. Thanks everyone less than 3. Edit again. This thread is now more than 1/4 of all of my karma. Love you all. Less than 3. The company I work for invested $1 million into a new framework for servers and databases. Let it sit unused for 6 years and then migrated a very poorly tested environment onto it when it was 2 years until EOL. Basically forcing themselves to start looking for a replacement right after migration. I just bought a $17 plain burger at a concert venue. When he was 8, my buddy got hurt in a supermarket because of random boxes in the walkway. His mom sued and he got rewarded $18,000 in a settlement. However, he wasn't able to touch the money till he was 18. Anyway, when he turned 18 in 2009, he got all of the money all at once. He immediately went out and bought TVs, the biggest of course, and Xbox 360s for 4 family members. Then he paid the $500 down payment on a brand new car and leased it for $350 more. Went to a local sit-down restaurant and paid for others to eat there multiple times, and I don't even want to think about his online shopping. This went on for a month and a half. One day one of his friends made him a deal. It'd buy him a laptop, of equal value at the time, for his Xbox 360. They went to the store and went to pay for it. His debit card got denied. When he checked his balance, he had about $150 in his account. A family friend of ours splurged his money on several cars. When I say several, trust me, they are in hundreds. I've been to his garage once when he threw a huge party. His garage had several Rolls Royces, several Bentleys, several BMWs, several Audis, several Benzes, several Lamborghinis, and several Porsches. I thought this dude must be rich as duck until I found out later in the news that he's defrauded banks of money. His debts were amounting x15 the amount of his value of his whole and his businesses. He was thrown in jail. He's out now, I think. Few years back I used to make cast molded pewter figurines for D&D. I could buy $25 worth of pewter and MK about 50-75 figurines, which I sold for $10 to $50 each, depending on the size. Had a guy come to me, buy every figurine I was able to make. I had 72 different molds, for a cost of $900. Said he was going to get deep into D&D. Week later he gave up on the game because he couldn't figure out the battle system. I was an assistant manager at a grocery store, and you wouldn't believe how much produce I threw out because it wasn't pretty enough. The district manager set a high standard of how the produce should look. If I didn't cull it correctly, He would write me up. He came in 1-3 times a week, so I couldn't get away with not doing what he asked. When I looked at weekly reports of the shrink, produce amounted for about $100-200. I asked him if I could donate the produce we throw out, and his response was that's theft. I was so glad when this place went out of business. Parishioners spent years raising several $1,000,000 to restore their large, aging Gothic church. No sooner was the extensive restoration complete but what plans were announced by the diocese to close the building and merge the parish with another. All those donations, fundraisers, and tireless efforts right down the drain. And thus far the only potential buyer for the church is considering turning it into a combination nightclub restaurant banquet facility. Going to study abroad in Japan while having a severe allergy to peanuts and eggs and absolutely zero knowledge of the Japanese language. He left after 1 week. Co-workers putting $300 in a slot machine. Lost it all in a few seconds. Then he asked to borrow some money because his kids are coming to visit. I guess I know why he was divorced. Donating money to get Kylie Jenner to be the youngest billionaire. One from the late 1990s. A large multinational engineering firm was given orders to eliminate unnecessary overhead expenses. One of their departments had a large conference coming up. About half the attendees were going to attend by teleconference. In those days, teleconferencing was done in dedicated rooms with CRT monitors and cameras. The use of these rooms was classified as an overhead expense, but business travel was not. So, in the name of saving money, all the teleconference arrangements were cancelled, and all attendees were flown in to attend in person. I worked at a phone store and this guy just lost his iPhone X in a river. The guy had insurance on the phone and had a $250 option to use it and get a phone the next day. He said he needed a phone now and ended up paying the $850 he still owed on his phone plus signing a new agreement to get another iPhone X. We make commission off the phones. But I was looking out in his best interest that doing the insurance would make the most sense but then scoffed and said it's only $800. He was the epitome of I live off daddy's money and him acting like $800 is nothing is the most pretentious thing I've ever seen. My roommate plays Fortnite and buys every single skin that come out. Every one. I spent $200 on a taxidermy squirrel wearing a top hat and holding a gun for my brother's birthday. Once I was at this cheap looking casino with a friend of mine. In this casino there was a round roulette table with 6 seats to sit and play on. As we, only my friend and I, were sitting at this particular table, some guy took 3 seats for himself and kept gambling the maximum amount of money on these 3 seats every game. This guy lost everything off course and went complete berserk after a while. Security had to drag his ass out of the casino because he was fighting the machines while screaming like a maniac. Poor guy probably lost everything that day. Still sometimes wonder how he's doing nowadays. I work as a freelance musician and often stand in for wedding bands. Have worked at lots of weddings where clearly the families have crazy money. One thing I always see at the fancier events without fail is a ton of amazing, fully prepared food and expensive drink being tipped thrown away at the end of the night. When I asked about it once, I was told by one of the staff that a lot of catering companies are trained to prepare enough of every menu option so that if everyone orders the same thing, they have enough. What happens in reality is they tip away enough food to feed the wedding party, often of 200 plus people, another 2 times over. Particularly annoying when the band are served cold chips as their evening meal because we couldn't stretch the budget. Sorry. On a more positive note, one of the funniest things I've ever seen was a drummer successfully sneak out of a catering tent, having liberated a whole wheel of cheese that night. I know a guy who purchased a second car. His first car is a Mustang. His second is an Audi. He is a single father. His payment arrangement is $400 per month. He didn't try to talk it down. The car is 10 years old. His Mustang isn't paid off. He works on my team in the same position as I have. My wife and I together can barely afford our $250 per month single car payment. And the best part? He can't drive a stick. His new car is a stick. He hasn't learned to drive a stick. It's been 3 years. He's been doing all of this and struggling for 3 years for a lawn ornament. I had a friend that thought a good way to save money would be to buy gift cards for places he didn't like. When he actually needed cash he would transfer them for about 60% value. Idiot. Some rich dude in the Hamptons buying a pallet of Fiji bottled water for his hot tub. I've broken away from Magic the Gathering a couple times, but now I'm back and I'm playing an FNM tonight. I've totally fallen off the wagon and the cardboard crack has me again. The cute 35k tiny Trump balloon flying in London. I thought it was supposed to be a lot bigger. I work at a car dealership as an apprentice mechanic. Now I've seen many examples of people wasting their money, be it car parts, dumb accessories, whatever the list goes on. But there was this one guy that would spend literally $75 on a car freshener and bragged about it constantly. He'd call himself elite because he bought these $75 pieces of scented cardboard. I don't know what went through his mind every time he'd buy one of them. At a festival while walking back to my campsite I pass a girl who was probably 18-20 years old who was buying a wire-wrapped drug spoon for $100. For those of you who are like WTF, even as that it's a 2-inch long metal spoon, probably worth $3, with wire decoratively wrapped around the end turning it into a necklace and you use it to spoon drugs into your nose. A girl who bought her boyfriend of 3 months an $800 watch for his birthday. High school. Some senior won a Tim Hortons roll up the rim to win thingy. Bought a ton of cigarettes, booze, and drugs. I once witnessed a guy launch a luxury car into space when he had the option of using just any old thing that weighed a lot. Saw an acquaintance let pride get the better of him and he spent $300 on a carnival game that he never ended up being able to win. I think I had something to do with it cause I won the game. Free throw, moments before and he was watching. For some reason in middle to high school I would win that game every single time I saw it. Can't for the life of me anymore. He got a consolation doll though. My boss bought a $30,000 boulder to put in his front yard. Was at the Bellagio in Vegas and walked in the high roller room. There was a guy walking around playing baccarat on 4 or 5 different tables at a time. He'd tell the dealer 25 bank, 5 tie, 25 bank, 5 tie, while rotating around. Basically, he was betting $25,000 on the bank and $5,000 on a tie. Ask the pit boss about him. Apparently, he was the son of the LG CEO and was down about $5 million so far that weekend. My boyfriend's dad owns 7 different Apple Watches because he didn't want to change the bands out. The top business manager for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System fell for an unsophisticated con, wiring $46,500 to someone who claimed via a Hotmail email address to be Superintendent Warren Drake, even though the man himself was working in an office next door. She also made no attempt to call or talk in person with Drake, whose office is adjacent to hers at the school board office on South Foster Drive. The fake Warren Drake says at different points that he's busy or in a meeting, which appears to have dissuaded her from trying to talk to him directly. The fake Warren Drake requested the first wire transfer of $22,500 go to the account of Rosa Arabode in the Bronx, and that the second of $24,000 go to Johnson Chepquinny of Brooklyn. The third wire request, which was halted, was for $25,000 for Sylvester Namitidi, also from Brooklyn. I'm so glad I was at the school board office doing HR paperwork the day the police were called for this. Lol. Bad Super Bowl commercials. Every 30 seconds of this is $5 million. I worked at a 5-star beach resort. Rich 30-something-year-old mom comes in around 10 AM to buy sunglasses. $500 Prada shades? No big deal. These people have ducky money, so I think nothing of it and return to work like the good pleb that I am. This itch lost the glasses in the ocean. Buys another pair, loses that pair, then complains that we won't give her the third pair for free. So she pays for the third pair. This all happened before 3 PM. $1,500 in sunglasses in 5 hours. My brother graduated from law school. We were having a lunch before the graduation event. My grandpa ordered a $500 bottle of champagne for him and his wife at lunch. The waiter mistakenly thought he meant for the entire table of 9. The waiter brings out a $4,000 Magnum bottle of champagne. My grandpa, not wanting to be embarrassed, opened and accepted it. We all drank what we could and he had the rest sent up to his room. It was about a $6,200 lunch. My roommate is a rich international student. His parents own a very successful business in Beijing. He spent 1,300 Canadian dollars on a brand new iPad Pro. Mind you, he already owned one, so that he can have one iPad plugged into our speaker, and he can use the other iPad as a remote to change the music. My brother needed a plastic bag to carry some of his luggage that wouldn't fit in his suitcase. He decided the best plan was to pull off the interstate at the next exit and buy something in order to get a bag. Despite not needing anything to eat, he chose an expensive sandwich, a drink he didn't need, and chips he didn't need. Spent about $15. As it was sunny, we sat outside the store whilst he ate what he didn't need. We get back in the car and hit the road. About 10 minutes later he says, "Duck, I threw that bag in the trash." A company won a contract in an area of the world they never operated in but thought they could do it purely because they had the hubris of working in other tough areas of the world. In fact, they were so confident they quickly scaled up to several contracts in this new area. Turns out the equipment couldn't hack the new environment. Company proceeds to blow well over $100 million in a year repairing prematurely failing equipment. Surprise, surprise. There was no Christmas party that year, but I'm sure the management team enjoyed their bonuses. I just realized I've been off my Wi-Fi and been using up data for the last 2 hours on Reddit. I watched someone spend over $13k on drinks to impress women at a club. Got drunk, passed out on couch, everyone left him there. Club owner had to help him home. I work at a computer store. I had a family come in and the conversation went something like this. "Dad, Aiden here's about to graduate 2nd grade. So we are looking to build him a gaming computer." Me: "Okay, what is your budget for the system?" Kid shrugs. "Dad, we are thinking around 4. Me: $400 is a little tight but we can see what kind of system we can do for that." Dad: No, $4,000. My government just spent 25k on some very nice hemorrhoid looking cushions. Not chairs, not benches, just the cushions. Not a huge amount of cushions either, just under 300. It's okay though lol, because at least the money was spent creating jobs, and they were made by First Nations artists, so we showcased the culture. Except that company has now cut and run, and can't be located at all. So no jobs, no culture to showcase. We're also apparently developing a weather app because Canadians love to check the weather and the government seems unaware that literally every device this app could run on already comes with a built-in weather app, and unaware that the percent of users who will install a new weather app will have to scroll past the dozens of well-reviewed free weather apps already on the store. I expect the 13 Environment Canada employees who download it will get lots of use out of it though. My friend owns 2 watches totaling $40,000. He can't tell the time. Bonus: one's Roman numerals and he can't read them either. My company bought replacement office chairs for 3,000 employees plus 1,000 extra for empty desks at $1,200 a pop. The old chairs were much more comfortable and had many more adjustment options. No one is allowed to have their old chairs back, even though the new ones kill their backs. Some of the old chairs needed replacing, but this was just stupid. A family friend became very successful and celebrated by buying $12,000 of matching wooden hangers. I bought a 1992 NBA Jam arcade machine. Don't get me wrong, I love me some classic Jam, but my friends told me it was a waste and I haven't turned it on in over a year. My ex is obsessed with biohacking and trying to get fit without actually putting in any work. His Amazon orders were things like a neck strengthening hat, weird supplements, electromagnetic reader, a rowing machine, hand grip springs, all of which he used once and then either threw out or sold. Meanwhile, I get him a pass to my gym and offer to work out with him whenever, but nope, too much effort. Trust fund kids are weird. My buddy plays some game on his iPad, but only when he's drunk. He spent $6,000 on in-game purchases. Did all this while planning his $60,000 wedding. I'm not sure which was a bigger waste, but the whole thing made me sick.